Okay, Math 098, we're going to start in 5.6. And you probably remember a lot of this from previous math classes. I'm just going to add a new twist to it of my way of teaching. So the main premise with factoring trinomials, you can see we have three terms here, is we're trying to get it so it's in the form of, x plus something, or x minus, or x plus 1's minus. And the main thing here, at least we're starting with, is the leading coefficient as 1. And when the leading coefficient's 1, it's the easiest problem because you just look at the constant, and sometimes I just have my students write out all of the possible factors of the constant. And then I tell them to look at this sign. That's the sign that tells you that you need to add between the two numbers. So as you add between the two numbers, 1 plus 6 is 7, and 2 plus 3 is 5. Well, the number that we care about is the 5. So this one, and it is true that 2 plus 3 is positive 5, so we just want to leave our answer like that, x plus 2, x plus 3. So this is our final answer for exercise 1. So as we look at exercise 2, it's set up the same way of the leading coefficient's 1, so you can just look at all the factors of 24. Now there's only going to be one possibility that works. So as you write them all down, once you find one that works, you can stop right there. And again, as you look at plus signs, the only issue is if I add 3 plus 8 together, I get positive 11. Well, we want a negative 11. So the only thing you need to do then is switch the signs of both 3 and 8. Negative 3 plus negative 8 is negative 11. And it's still true because negative 3 times negative 8 still gives you positive 24. So anytime you run into an issue where you get the right number but the opposite, you're probably at the right one. There's a few times where you might not. And you just have to negate both terms. So the correct answer here is x minus 3, x minus 8. And you can obviously distribute to check your work. So let me make that note. Check your work by distributing. And if you distribute, you go back to the original problem. So as we look at exercise 3 and 4, the first thing is that leading coefficient's not 1. However, we practiced problems with the greatest common factor in the previous unit. So as you look, this is why we make you do the greatest common factor first, is there's a 3 and an x that goes into all of these terms. So now it's x squared minus 3x, that's minus 10. So now I'm going to say ignore the 3x, but it's not that you just ignore it, it goes down when we get to the final answer. So it's going to be 3x, and then x, and then x. And what we have to figure out is what are factors of 10? Well, there's only two possibilities, 1 and 10, 2 and 5. And now notice my sign is negative, so I subtract. 1 minus 10 would give me negative 9. 2 minus 5 gives me negative 3, which is exactly what I want. So what that tells me is it's a plus 2 and a minus 5. And this is your final answer for exercise 3. I'm going to purposely do the next one slightly different. But again, the leading coefficient is not 1. So you might want to look for that greatest common factor of 2. And so now as you look at this, there's only two factors of 11. Well, 1 minus 11 is negative 10. It doesn't work. So you can still factor it, but all you can do is the greatest common factor, and that's it. Otherwise, past that, it's unfactorable. So now what we're getting into is more difficult problems, okay? Because now there's no greatest common factor, no GCF. It's not 4 terms, so we can't just split it up. The leading coefficient is not equal to 1. So we have a new method, and that method, sometimes I call it the AC method, where you multiply 2 times 6. And the reason why it's called the AC method, I'll jot it down right here, is because it's ax squared plus bx plus c. And what you're doing is you're taking the a value and you're multiplying by the c value. So it's called the AC method. Anyway, let's get back to the problem. So 2 times 6, that's 12. Well, what are factors of 12 that add to be 13? It's 1 and 12. All my other rules still apply. It's a plus sign, so I want to add the numbers to get you that middle number. So yes, there are other factors of 12, like 2 and 6, but that adds to be 8. 3 and 4 adds to be 7. So now what I'm going to do is just rewrite the problem. 2x squared plus 1x plus 12x plus 6. So I hope you realize where I got the 1x and the 12x. And the reason why that works is I'm splitting up 13 to be 1 plus 12. So now I can group the first two pieces together and the last two pieces together. See how I'm splitting the middle, factor by grouping. And I have the x in front, 2x plus 1. And then here I can factor out a 6, 2x plus 1. Notice my parentheses are exactly the same. So now I have 2x plus 1 written once, and then x plus 6 is my other factor. Just like that. So I'm going to do the AC method again. You can pause the video, rewatch it, or you can try it on your own, see if you get the same answer. So my AC method tells me that I'm going to get negative 24. And you can write out all the factors of 24, and we're going to subtract because it's a negative to give me 5. So 1 minus 24 doesn't work. 2 minus 12 doesn't work. 3 minus 8 gives me negative 5. So what we can do is we can just negate each one. Negative 3 plus 8 will give me positive 5. That's what we want. So I'm just going to rewrite 4x squared. I'm going to change 5x to be minus 3x plus 8x. I'm going to leave that as minus 6. So now I can group. I have an x in common for the first two. That's 4x minus 3. I have a 2 in common with the second group, and I'm left with 4x minus 3. So now I can write 4x minus 3 once. They're identical in both terms. And I'm left with x plus 2. That's my final answer. Please write down any questions you have so you can bring them to class. You can ask me. So it's only going to get more difficult. If it's making perfect sense, then that's a good thing. Because if you look at exercise 7, we still have these rules, except now we also have a greatest common factor. I believe all of these numbers are divisible by 3, and we can factor out an x squared. So if my math is correct, it would be 6x squared. I can get a calculator just to make sure. Pretty sure it's 19. Yep, minus 19x. And 30 divided by 3 is 10. And I still need to do the AC method though. Well, 6 times 10 is 60. Factors is 60. Now I want to add to equal 19. So after you exhaust a lot of options, I'm going to save you some time and jump to 4 and 15. 4 times 15 is 60. 4 plus 15 is 19. Well, I want a negative, so let's negate both of those. Again, I'm going to use the phrase of just ignore that 3x squared, but it just goes along as we continue through the problem. So let me change colors. I'm just going to rewrite it as 6x squared minus 4x minus 15x plus 10. Notice that I split up that 19 to be two different things, and where did they come from? Here and here. So I can factor out a 2x in my first two terms, and I'm left with 3x minus 2. I'm going to factor out a negative 5. That way I can change the sign. So it's 3x minus 2. And my 3x minus 2 is identical. can write that here. And my other set of parentheses is 2x minus 5. And again, if you were to FOIL this out, you'll just get back to the original problem. So you could check by FOILing. You can check by FOILing or distributing. Whatever phrase you prefer. All right, so again, the next one, I'm not trying to confuse you at all. There's no greatest common factor, I don't think. And as you're looking at it, don't worry about the x's and y's. I think it'll make sense once you get to the end. And you do the AC method. That's 100, and then factors of 100 that would add to be 20. There's only two possibilities, 10 and 10. So as you work through this, and you were to rewrite it as 25x squared, and rewrite that as 10xy plus 10xy plus 4y squared, and then you group things together, is what I meant by you don't really have to worry about the y's, why it looks different, because it still works out. 5x plus 2y, and as I factor out a 2y here, I am left with 5x plus 2y, and it's set up just the way we like it. 5x plus 2y, 5x plus 2y. Now if you check with the back of the book, they're going to write this as 5x plus 2y squared, which is correct, because if you're squaring something, it means multiply by itself. I don't want to rush through a second video or rush through one video, so I'm going to stop right there. I think we're almost done though, but I'm going to save it for the next video.